let's just take a go off on a slightly different trajectory now. We've talked about the last 12 months, and again, it's an episode in itself. Looking forward to the future now, for the next year. As businesses, as CEOs of your own respective companies, what are your goals in terms of support for the next 12 months, and where do you see that coming from?
Oh,
Sarah. Oh, boy, James, you put your hand up. Sorry, I do apologize.
Sorry, mine's actually very quick on this. We simply need to convince the UK's ministerial delegation to essentially say, yeah, UK Space Agency, UK funding mechanisms will commit funding at the ESA Ministerial Council. That's held in late November. So we're doing the rounds, getting as many industry and expert letters of support and memoranda as we can to essentially put together the support package that we then share with the UK delegation to convince them to say, hey, we're taking space debris and sustainability and resilience threats seriously, and we have a UK company that we want to fund using this shared pot of money that the UK and other ESA member states contribute into. So for us, it's a little bit of lobbying for sure. So becoming a bit of a political animal, and that metamorphosis is strange, but ultimately it's talking the right people into funding the right stuff as far as we're concerned. And that should come together in the next 12 months for sure.
Sarah, I can see your brain, I can hear your brain ticking away. Over to you.
I echo that as well, Jamie. I think so. What was it on Wednesday? As I was away doing a variety of different meetings, one of my colleagues went to this UK Space Propulsion Working Group forum. So it's something that we have within the propulsion side in the UK, where we all tend to meet like once or twice a year. And the purpose of this session was very much to bring in representatives from the Space Agency, from ESA, from the government as well, and really showcase and tell them what is needed right now. What are the priorities we're seeing, and how does that mesh with their reviews? How does that mesh with the growth that we're as expected with the industry, and what is ultimately needed in terms of funding? In terms of the support in the next 12 months, it's an interesting one where we are getting ready for a lot of globalization potential, and it's very much we need to then expand our reach. We need to expand then our talent as well, because I cannot be everywhere. If we're opening an office in Asia Pacific, I don't want necessarily one of my colleagues to be there managing it. I would rather hire locally and have that talent and those resources come from that. So it's really expanding a lot of our network and getting to the point where, not just from a talent point of view, and even from a buyer point of view, the technology is so versatile, is really expanding our net now to see how we can best impact and affect kind of this industry. In the next 12 months, specifically gearing up to our then full main launch, a lot of it is on the line. Obviously, if it doesn't work out well and it just fails, absolutely, that's the business done. But I want to then start building already a lot of those relationships as we're gearing up to that first launch. And obviously, we have all our assurances that everything should work ahead of time before we even launch it, to really hit the ground running and really do as much as we can very quickly. So that's where I see myself really focusing more in the next 12 months, for sure.
And Mason, new in the role, obviously we've been starting here much longer than 2.5 months. Where do you see the next 12 months taking your company?
Yeah, if we can secure the funding, which things are looking positive, we'll have a tech demonstration on the ISS, which then basically allows us to sell into the Artemis program or be a part of that for future. But also it opens up a couple of avenues to some primes here in the UK and in Europe, because we're realizing as much as we love working in the US market, and especially on the human spaceflight side of things. I mean, it's one of those things that I think Europe is now starting to realize that we need some of those sovereign capabilities ourselves, especially with how funding has been with NASA and not knowing what the future of NASA is going to be. So we're also working in the next 12 months to make sure that we have the expertise built up, at least on the human spaceflight things over here, and growing that ecosystem. So as soon as the market here is ready for that, we can already say, hey, look, we've got a group of people, a group of companies that are ready to go already in-house, that you don't need to keep looking overseas, that expertise is around here. And I think the other thing is, I would have to echo the other two, James and Sarah, it's about that lobbying, about keeping pressure on the government right now, because like the last ministerial report that came out on space and launch and all that is the ambition and the talk is there, but the UK and Scottish governments have been very slow on the funding that goes behind it. And if we don't keep that pressure on and they don't keep that interest, the UK is not going to reach that 10% of the global space market like they want to, because they're just kind of resting on the laurels that a few small sat companies that have been doing it for 20 years are going to carry everything, and they don't realize what other things are going on here. So it's about communication just as much as it is about building out or getting launched.
And Kate, from your perspective, you're looking at providing support in a slightly different way. Do you find that, what are your thoughts on the next 12 months as to how companies are going to be actually finding the right people? Because Jamie, Nathan and Sarah will be successful, they will get the funding, but they're going to need people with the right skills.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I've mapped out for the next 12 months that I will, very specific things I think I'll mention. So one is we keep talking about funding and investment. And yes, we need government, I think, for sure, but I think we need to be savvy about looking for other pots. So I think we need private investors to be much more aware of what's going on. There's different funds, there's family offices, there's other things that we need to tap into and bring them into the story so they understand the applications that they can be actually be used. And just, I think a lot of this is you guys telling your story. Like what are you building and making it into terms I think that they can understand. And understanding that, yeah, it's going to be a longer lead time and, the return on the investment, but it's worth it. So it's kind of building that into the narrative as well. So investment's number one. Number two is I'm really quite passionate working with the clusters. So there's 14 clusters across the UK, and there's some really amazing ones that are really active, and there's others that, kind of bubbling away in the background. But each of them are very passionate about their companies that are within the cluster. They're very passionate about enabling them. So we want to work alongside them to kind of help understand what are their pain points as far as hiring. How can we be better about being strategic and helping them find the right employees? We're looking at adjacent industries that we have to do that. You can't just have a space CV. You need that experience, but you need to be pulling in from other industries like automotive and data and AI and other things like that. Robotics, obviously. Then the last bit that I'm, again, really passionate about is kind of opening up the message around the international conversation. So I'm concentrating on Texas because that's where I'm from. And there's a lot going on in space in Texas, and trying to build those conversations and relationships. I know Daniel Smith is really passionate about that as well, obviously being the Scottish envoy. So we've had some conversations, but again, kind of working along those lines that are very similar. Is what we're going to be doing is, as far as what I'll be doing, but also what we'll be doing as an agency. So lots to cover, lots to try to pull off, but I'm excited. I'm excited about the next 12 months.
And